Hey, it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We are zooming in and focusing in on a ripple effect, or an effect that oftentimes a toxic person, an emotionally manipulative person, someone who is narcissistic or psychopathic in behavior, a personality disordered individual who has an inflated sense of self, who basically looks at others to take advantage of and to compliment them, to keep a false persona. And oftentimes the relationships are very shallow or very superficial, very much on the outside. In other words, they're not engaging you on all levels. There are specific levels that you feel connected to and others that you feel very disconnected to. And oftentimes it's because the narcissist is trying to, as well as the psychopath, is trying to promote a false persona, an image that they are trying to craft and build up, which is coming really from an outer appearance, an outer lack of ego versus an internal experience within them. So they have an insatiable need, such as Sam Vatkin, a leading reviewer and researcher of narcissistic personality disorder, states as these individuals who have an insatiable need to control others. So an insatiable need to be the one in control, the one in power, intention, etc. And so a lot of this comes with an arrogance, a haughtiness, a superficial sort of fake personality, as well as somebody who takes advantage of others because they have a lack of empathy. Oftentimes they can have a humor that's very sarcastic, very sardonic, very pointed, targeted speech, which is hurtful, yet they're going to, laugh it off as playful in nature. And always someone else, is there to pay at their expense. Basically, the joke is always going to be at someone else's expense. There's always a negative talk about somebody else, and it's never really done in good favor or in good faith. It's done as sort of a way to make themselves look good. And if you look at it, it's always a make themselves look good. In other words, there's something about them that they are trying to conceal and hide. And it's usually, some very negative self-talk, negative self-evaluation, how they really feel about themselves. And this also really is a kind of a deep-seated insecurity, which makes them very dependent or addicted or excessively needy of others. So they have a real strong neediness of others to kind of maintain this personal persona. So it's almost like a musician who needs a lot of groupies or things of this nature. Instead of being on a genuine connectedness with people, oftentimes they just want supply. What is known in kind of understanding how these people work, or in the event of the psychopath, someone who they can really target. And when we talk about really target, we're talking about really fool, deceive, and really sort of play them. And, you hear about, playing them for a fiddle. They know what they are doing, basically. And so when we talk about really, the narcissist and the psychopath and how they take advantage of others, really, you need to understand that they are targeting people who have a lot of heart, are good listeners, are vulnerable. And, they're kind of open, and they don't realize that they're open to be taken advantage of, or really, what I would call being emotionally manipulated. And rather than being supportive and nurturing and trying to bring out the best of you, oftentimes it becomes a part where they're really bringing out the worst of you because there's this lack of validation. And so really it's kind of important to understand that oftentimes people feel like they're being tested by these individuals. They're constantly on trial. And if this has become a habituated method where you're basically constantly feeling tested by this person and you're always trying to meet the test, prove the test, prove that you love them, do this and this better for them, and you're constantly in, this sort of proving method, release that need to be testy. Release that need to prove, that you're a good daughter, a good son, a good spouse. If you've, found that this is a bad cycle or a bad habit and it's making your life so complicated, realize it's time to make your life and simplify it. simplify your life by letting go this need to impress these types of people. Because oftentimes it's this need to please them which actually triggers them. Because you're trying to get on the same level with them and they don't want to have anything to do with anybody who's on their level. They're going to want to kick you down. And so every time you try harder to impress, they're going to try harder to kick you down. And so stop that fighting. Stop the need to have their recognition. Release the need to look good in their eyes. Release the need to prove yourself. Even if it means not interacting with them, then do not interact. And furthermore, if you have kind of a history or a pattern of seeking out these types of people or feeling that you need to approach relationships in this manner, let it go. Let go that need to impress people. Do have more of an internal guide stick for what your standards are. Look at taking care of, identifying and taking care of your needs as an independent sort of source of security rather than needing that validation from outside. You don't need them to reinforce, that you're a good person. You have to know this internally, and that it's not based on all these conditions which a narcissist, a psychopath oftentimes is setting up. Setting up way too many conditions to meet. You're trying to prove this, prove that, and it becomes very complicated and convoluted because really your body is not organically meant to live on that external, superficial, shallow layer. Your true emotions are going to break through, and usually it's that anger of it not being validated and not being able to, be expressed in the relationship that you feel that you're being stifled or stuck, and you're not able to live, you're not able to function. The relationship becomes very dysfunctional. So if this has become a need for you, and even though you might inherently neglect it or reject it or be very resistive, release the need to be validated by them as a good person, a good girl, an attractive guy, a good daughter, a good sister, a good brother, a good, this, a good that, because oftentimes it's that validation that you're craving, that you're looking for, that you're trying to get out of them that is causing the trouble. You're trying to get blood from a stone. You're trying to get blood from a turnip. You're trying to get water out of oil. It's not going to flow. It's not going to occur. You can't get closure. You can't ever get that symbiotic relationship with them because they are very parasitic on a whole host of other people, and it's only going to drain your energy. It's only going to be an exercise in futility because they don't want to exist on this level. They don't have the personality composition and makeup. If they have a heightened sense of self-superiority and self-importance, and coupled with a lack of empathy, which means they don't have the ability to validate and understand and embrace and support your needs, your feelings, your emotions, the real you, and then you need to realize this and then let these people go and become more attracted to a simple life, a healing lifestyle. Work the recovery journal, work the steps and all the tools that we discuss, and I think you'll find that you're really embracing and nurturing a real authentic you that is more heart-centered versus caught up in all the analysis and what's wrong with me that you are really instilling when you have been in a relationship with a narcissist or psychopathic individual. It is peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.